The morning I accidentally ate a billionaire's breakfast, I was just trying not to cry in public. You know what I mean? The kind of morning where your hair is still damp from the rain, your shoes are talking back to the pavement, and your entire future feels like it comes down to one lousy interview you might already be late for. Outside, Harborview's wind was throwing rain sideways against the glass inside this upscale cafe right off the financial district. Everyone looked like a stock photo. Tailored suits, expensive headphones, laptops open on color-coded spreadsheets, that quiet hum of people who never seem to worry about overdraft fees. Then there was me, Jenna Morales, 33, single mom, thrift shop blouse ironed with a flat iron drugstore mascara. One raindrop away from disaster, clutching a dollar store portfolio full of notes like it was a life raft. I had exactly 15 minutes to sit down, breathe, review my talking points for this marketing role at Sterling and Cole Holdings, and try to convince myself I belonged in that 32nd floor conference room, just as much as anyone whose parents probably paid for prep school and grad school and an apartment with a doorman. Of course, every single table was taken right. People with their perfect cappuccinos and their perfect shoes spread out like they owned oxygen. I was about to give up and lean against a pillar when I saw it. One corner table, one empty chair, one man sitting alone like the eye of the storm, navy suit, that clearly was not off the clearance rack, platinum watch, dark hair doing that casual, messy thing I am pretty sure you have to pay a stylist for. In front of him, a plate of untouched eggs, Benedict, and a mug of black coffee, steam curling up like this dramatic movie shot. And something about how stiff his shoulders were said his morning was not going that great either. I almost kept walking. Men who look like that in places like this do not usually share tables with women who ride the bus and pay rent in cash. But then my eyes hit the clock. My stomach growled loud enough to embarrass me, and my mouth betrayed me before my brain could stop it. "Excuse me," I said, voice doing that annoying little wobble. "Is anyone sitting here? Could I borrow the chair for a few minutes? I just need a place to look over my notes." He looked up, and I swear it felt like being scanned, gray blue eyes taking in my wet hair, the cheap blazer, the scuffed flats, the death grip on my portfolio. But there was no smirk, no obvious judgment, just this calm once over. And then he said something I did not expect at all. "You can sit," he said, "only if you eat too." I actually turned around for a second, like maybe he was talking to someone else, then looked back. "I am sorry, what?" He nodded at the plate in front of him. "I lost my appetite. I hate wasting food. You sit here, you help me out. I get to feel slightly less guilty." And right on cue, my stomach betrayed me again, loud enough for him to hear over the espresso machine, his mouth tugged up at one corner like he was trying not to laugh, and I could feel my cheeks burning. Pride told me to say no. Act like I did not need his charity, walk out and go review my notes in the lobby like a normal broke person. But the clock was still ticking on that wall, the rain was still hammering the windows, and I had skipped breakfast so my daughter could have the last of the cereal. So I took a breath, swallowed the humiliation, and slid into the chair. "This is the weirdest cover charge I have ever paid for a seat," I muttered. He smiled just a little at that. "I am Cole," he said, like that answered nothing at all and everything at once. "Jenna," I answered, trying not to inhale the first bite of eggs Benedict like some starving raccoon. But when that hollandaise hit my tongue, it was game over. I had to close my eyes for a second and just let myself enjoy it. "Big day?" he asked, nodding toward my folder. "Interview." I said, "Sterling and Cole marketing position. If it goes well, I might finally be able to quit my third job and see my kid while she is still awake." I did not mean to say that last part out loud, but it slipped out the way things do when you are tired and sitting with a stranger you are pretty sure you will never see again. He kept asking questions, not the small talk kind, but real ones. What kind of campaigns I would run, what I thought the company was getting wrong with its current branding, how I would reach actual families instead of the picture-perfect ones they always used in their ads. And before I knew it, I was talking with my hands, forgetting to be self-conscious, explaining how their messaging felt like it was written by people who had never had to choose between gas and groceries. How the families I knew did not buy full organic everything and matching pajamas for Christmas. They bought whatever was on sale. They worked night shifts and double shifts. They let their kids watch cartoons on cracked phones while they reheated leftovers. If you pretend your customers are richer than they are, you are already taking a risk, I said, feeling a little too bold for someone eating a stranger's breakfast. At least if you talk to them honestly, you have a chance at loyalty. He kept pushing. What about budget? What about risk? What about brand image? His questions sounded like the case studies I read at 2 in the morning, but he listened, really listened. No condescension, just this focused interest that made me feel like maybe I did know what I was talking about. At one point I squinted at him and said, "You seem to know a lot about marketing for someone who is supposedly just killing time with cold eggs." He just shrugged. "I dabble in business," he said, which was honestly the most obnoxious yet weirdly charming thing I had ever heard. When I finally checked the clock and saw how close I was cutting it, I shot up so fast I almost knocked over his coffee. "I have to go," I said, grabbing my folder. "Thank you for the food and the table and the free stress test." He leaned back, watching me. "Jenna," he said, as I turned to leave, "remember, they need people who see what they are doing wrong. You are not begging for a favor. You are offering value. Walk in like that." It sounds like a cheesy line when I repeat it now, but in that moment it hit different, so I tucked it into my pocket with my bus pass and carried it with me through the rain, through the metal detectors, up the elevator to the 32nd floor. HR led me to this long glass-walled conference room with a view of the harbor and a table that could seat 12 executives already there with copies of my resume, and at the head of the table one empty chair. "We are just waiting for Mr. Sterling," the HR manager said, all polished smile. "He likes to sit in on final interviews." My stomach dropped. The job posting had mentioned a panel, not the actual CEO, the guy whose face was on magazine covers and business podcasts. The one people called a shark with dimples. I suddenly felt very aware of the tiny coffee stain on my sleeve. I was straightening my notes when the door opened behind me and the whole room shifted. Everyone sat up, straighter voices dropped, that subtle electric change that happens when the person in charge walks in. I turned my head, and for a second my brain just logged random details. Navy suit, same platinum watch, same calm walk, and then my heart caught up. It was him. The stranger from the cafe, the man whose breakfast I had just devoured like a stray cat. He did not even blink, just came to the head of the table, shook my hand with a perfectly neutral expression, and said, "Ms. Morales, we meet again." HR's eyebrows flew up. "You two know each other?" she asked. "We shared a table this morning," he said lightly, taking his seat. "We have already conducted half her interview over excellent eggs Benedict." There was some polite chuckling. I laughed a little too loudly because my brain was screaming, "That happened," but I sat down and told myself to focus. We went through the usual questions: my degree, my patchwork resume of part-time gigs and freelance clients, why I had gaps, how I balanced school and motherhood, and I answered as honestly as I could without sounding like a walking sob story. Then he asked the last question, the one that felt like it mattered more than the others. "Why Sterling and Cole?" he said, hands steepled, eyes steady on mine. "Harborview has other firms, some with more straightforward hours. Why us specifically?" I could have thrown out the standard buzzwords, reputation growth, innovation, but I thought about that morning at the table about how much of my life I had spent pretending I was not a mother to get hired. How tired I was of hiding the part of me that mattered most. And I took a breath. Honestly, I said, because you say you are family-friendly, because your policies do not treat kids like an inconvenience, because I am a single mom, and I am done apologizing for that. I want to work somewhere that does not make me choose between being good at my job and picking up my daughter when she has a fever. You could feel the air change, like someone had opened a window. A couple of executives shifted, only one cleared their throat. One woman down the table gave me this tiny, almost smile. His expression did not change much, but his eyes did this flicker thing I would later learn meant he was actually processing something. "Thank you for your candor," he said after a beat. "HR will be in touch." I rode the elevator down after that, feeling like I had either just torched my one good shot or given the best version of myself I knew how to give. And honestly, at that point, those felt like the same thing. 3 days later, I got the email while Lily was doing homework at our tiny kitchen table. "Dear Ms. Morales, we are pleased to offer you the position of Senior Marketing Strategist." I read it 3 times, sure I was misreading senior, not coordinator, higher title, bigger salary, real benefits. "Did they say yes?" Lily asked without looking up from her math sheet. "They said yes," I told her, voice shaking, and they said it loudly. We celebrated with pancakes for dinner, because that is what you do when you are still living paycheck to paycheck, and good news feels almost unreal. My first day at Sterling & Cole was like stepping into a different planet. Glass walls, quiet carpets, people with badges and keycards and schedules that did not involve juggling restaurant shifts and cleaning houses. HR walked me around, introduced me to my team, and casually mentioned that Mr. Sterling personally advocated for the upgraded role. My manager Damon showed me to an actual office, not a cubicle, a door I could close, a window looking out over the harbor. "Strategists usually share space," he said, a little sheepish, "but Cole thought you would need privacy to think." I could feel eyes on me from the open area, that mix of curiosity and judgment. New girl with the upgraded title and private office and CEO's name